My girlfriend laughs at my sister when upon their introduction, my sister is terrified because she was her high school bully. But now my sister has me to defend her from my ex-girlfriend. I, 28, have been dating Brooke, 24, for about 8 months. It's a serious relationship. We've already had talks about moving in together, even getting married someday. Not now, but at some point. I thought I knew her. I thought she was mature, emotionally intelligent, a bit direct sometimes, but overall a kind person. Until this past weekend. My mom retired early and we had a small family celebration at our house, close family and some family friends. I asked Brooke to come and meet everyone, thinking it would be an opportunity for her to see my whole family. She was excited, asking what she should wear and if she should bring anything. She wanted to make a good impression. My younger sister, Bet 21, was also going to be there. She came home from university for the weekend. I don't talk much about her with Brooke, but not for any specific reason. It just never came up other than saying she's my little sister, that she's shy, and that she likes art. We walked in. Bet was helping set the table with my mom. They turned to greet us, and Bet completely froze. Her face transformed as if it had melted. She looked at Brooke for about 2 seconds, dropped a spoon, and quickly left without saying anything. I thought maybe she was sick or overwhelmed, but then Brooke just watched her leave and started to laugh. My mom didn't laugh. She quietly told me she would go check on Bet and gave Brooke a strange look. I still didn't understand, so I awkwardly tried to fill the silence and continued introducing Brooke to the others. My mom took a while to return. About 20 minutes later, she called me aside and told me Bet had locked herself in the upstairs bathroom, crying, trembling, and hyperventilating. My mom said something like, "I know you didn't know, I don't blame you, but you have to understand who Brooke is to Bet. That's where all the gaps in this story were filled, and that's what I'll do with you now." It turns out Brooke and Bet went to the same high school, different grades, but the same school. And Brooke was one of the girls who made Bet's life miserable. She wasn't just another random bully. She was the leader. According to my mom, Brooke called Bet names, mocked her weight, organized a group of girls to stop talking to her, spread rumors, and made sure Bet ate lunch alone. This went on for over a year. Bet never told me everything. I didn't know how bad it was. I only knew that she stopped wanting to go to school and started therapy. I didn't know Brooke was the reason. What makes it worse is that Brooke had told me before that she was bullied in high school, that she hated that environment, that people were cruel and closed-minded. She painted herself as an outcast. But as soon as I mentioned Bet's name on the way back, since we had to leave early, her face changed. First, she looked confused. Then when I gave her more details about Bet, she said, "Oh, that Bet," claiming she vaguely remembered her. Maybe she made some jokes back then, but everyone was cruel in high school. She literally said, "I didn't think she was still traumatized by that." I told her. She laughed when Bet ran off. She shrugged and said she thought Bet was acting weird, that she had no idea something was wrong. Then she told me I was overreacting, that my family was turning this into a witch hunt. She tried to deflect the conversation by talking about how the night could have gone better and how tense everything was. I told her it was tense because she was the reason my sister had a breakdown. That's when she changed tactics. She said she wasn't that person anymore, that she had matured, that all those things happened almost 8 years ago, that she herself went through things after graduating and came out a better person. I told her, "Okay, but then why did you never mention this? Why lie, saying you were bullied?" She fell silent and said she didn't lie. She just didn't tell the whole story. And now it seems she's using the argument that she's changed as a shield to avoid taking responsibility. I don't think she regrets what she did. I think she regrets being found out in front of my family. When we got back to my place, she tried to smooth everything over by being sexy. I didn't want to talk anymore. She was just trying to touch me, distract me. I pushed her away. I wasn't in the mood for games. I told her we weren't going to sweep this under the rug. Now she's mad at me. She says my family is overreacting about something that happened a long time ago, and that Bet is old enough to use this for a pout. She even said my mom was rude to her, which isn't true. My mom simply didn't let her play innocent. My parents want me to leave her. My sister hasn't spoken to me since. I think she's embarrassed and probably doesn't want to make things worse. Brooke has gotten over her anger and started sending me messages as if nothing happened. Selfies and I miss yous, and I can't even look at her without thinking about how quickly she laughed when she saw Bet break down. She keeps saying she's changed, that she's not that person anymore, but her whole attitude and the things she said don't seem like those of a person who has changed. I feel sick. I feel stupid, and I feel like I'm starting to see a version of Brooke that makes the last 8 months look completely different. I don't think an apology from her would be sincere even if she gave one. And it scares me that deep down she knew everything and thought this wouldn't come to light. Update 1. I haven't been able to sleep well for several nights. Something wasn't right. I kept going over everything I thought I knew about her and started to feel like I had only seen the superficial version of Brooke, the one she wanted me to see. I know some people in the previous post said, just leave her already. And I understand, but it's hard to explain. It wasn't that I wanted to stay with her, but I felt like I didn't even know who I had been dating for 8 months, as if I had been tricked, as if I had been lied to. And I really needed to know what I was dealing with before making a final decision. So I did something Brooke will probably never forgive me for. I contacted her parents. I had met them once before at a brunch when she invited me to meet them. It was a fairly positive experience, but that was the only time we were in contact. But I had their numbers, so I called and told them I needed to talk about Brooke. I told them it wasn't about anything bad in the present, just that I found out something from her past and wanted to understand it better before making decisions. I didn't even mention Bet's name. Her mom hesitated a bit. I could immediately tell she knew something, or at least wasn't surprised by the question. She said Brooke had a difficult adolescence, that she was very intense and didn't always handle emotions well. I asked if she ever bullied anyone. Her mom hesitated again and said there were some girls Brooke didn't get along with. I think she was just going through a lot back then, she commented. I asked to speak with her dad, and he was more direct. He told me bluntly, Brooke used to be very cruel when she felt insecure. She was smart, and that made her think she was better than others. We tried to talk to her about it back then, but it didn't always work. He told me she had mostly matured, but he also said, and I remember this exactly, be careful if you're digging too deep. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. People change. I didn't tell Brooke I called them, but I guess her mom did because 2 nights later she showed up at my house furious. She walked in and started demanding to know why I went to talk to her family about something from 1,000,000 years ago. I tried to calmly explain that I needed to understand why she hadn't told me anything about Bet and how she thought she could just come to my family's house as if nothing had happened. She said she initially didn't remember who Bet was. Then she said she didn't think it was important that everyone was an idiot in high school, and how was she supposed to know she was going to have a panic attack over something so old? That part deeply affected me. I mean, yes, maybe we all do stupid things in adolescence, but you can't decide how long someone has the right to feel bad about something. Bet literally couldn't breathe that day. Brooke saw her in a panic and laughed. We ended up having a nasty argument. She said I was letting my family poison my view of her, that my mom has an emotional incest thing with me, and that's why she was looking for anything to hate her. I told her it wasn't about my mom, it was about Bet, and that she was sick for saying the things she said. Brooke said I was treating her like a monster for something she doesn't even clearly remember. She kept repeating, I'm not that person anymore. You can just put that behind you. And then she said something that chilled my blood. So what, I was a bad girl in high school, now you want to cancel me for that? I asked her to leave, that we were over. She tried to hug me, half apologizing, saying she didn't know what to do. I didn't respond. I just sat on the couch without saying anything until she left. The next day I wrote to Bet. I told her that if it was okay with her, I would like to understand what happened in high school. She told me she didn't want to talk about everything again, but that in therapy she had written a letter to Brooke that she never planned to send. I asked if I could read it. She said yes, but warned me it was old and quite raw. That letter shattered me. It was basically Bet letting out everything she had kept inside for years. It said she used to dread school, that Brooke and her friends made cow noises when she walked by, laughed behind her back in gym class, took a picture of her, and anonymously posted it with a cruel caption she didn't say what it was. She wrote that she stopped eating lunch at school because she didn't want to be seen, that her identity in high school became Brooke's punching bag. She wrote that it took her years to stop flinching every time she heard girls laughing nearby, that she never told me because she was ashamed that I might have seen her the same way those girls did. I didn't know what to say. It wasn't simple teasing. It wasn't typical teenage drama. It was systematic humiliation for years. I truly doubt Brooke didn't remember this because she wasn't simply a teenager being mean, but a full-time bully who I don't know how she found time to graduate. Update 2. A few days have passed since everything happened, and honestly I thought maybe she would just quietly disappear from my life. Like, okay, we argued. I told her we were over. I was clear. I thought she had understood. Well, no. 2 days after we broke up, she showed up at my mom's house. She had brought flowers, was well-dressed and made up, and just smiled. She said she wanted to apologize in person. My mom didn't even fully open the door, just cracked it open and told her to leave. Brooke stood there for a while and apparently said, "You guys are incredible," and went back to her car. I didn't find out until Bet told me. My mom didn't even mention it. I guess she didn't want to make things worse or was trying not to stress me out. But Bet texted me that night and said, Your ex came here. She made Mom super uncomfortable and I don't feel safe." That made me angry again. I called Brooke to tell her, "What the hell were you doing at my mom's house?" And her response was literally, "Trying to fix what you're too cowardly to face." She started ranting, saying I chose the drama, that I let a panic attack define our relationship, and that I was letting my family brainwash me. But I didn't let her change things. This isn't about just one panic attack. It's about what you did to Bet for years and how you still can't see it as wrong. She didn't care. She just kept talking about how it's not fair that people see her as a monster for things that happened in high school. I asked her, "Have you even admitted to yourself what you did to Bet?" And she said, "Yes, I was a bitch sometimes, but so were you, so was your sister. We all were." And then she laughed. It was then that I told her to delete my number, but again she didn't stop. The next day she started texting me as if nothing had happened. She said she wanted to meet, talk like adults, have closure. I told her no. She kept insisting, and then I started getting messages from some of our mutual friends, mostly people I knew through her, so I didn't expect them to be on my side. And it was clear she had started telling her own version of everything. One girl, I'll call her Mad, texted me and said she heard everything had been a mess, but Brooke told her that my mom hated her from the beginning and that Bet was mentally unstable and used to get jealous of the girls I dated. Mad told me Brooke was saying things like, "His mom controls his whole life. Bet still clings to high school stuff because she wants pity." And worst of all, that I was emotionally manipulative, that I made Brooke believe everything was fine and then betrayed her without warning. I replied to Mad, "If you believe that, you can stop texting me." She said she didn't believe it, but she thought I should know. So yes, apparently now I'm the typical mama's boy. And my sister is a crazy, unstable, jealous person who sabotaged her brother's relationship because she wants attention. It doesn't make any sense. Honestly, I'm not surprised Brooke is trying to protect her ego, but I didn't think she'd go this far. And the worst part is, I think she genuinely believes she's the victim. I told Bet everything Brooke said. I asked her if she was okay with me posting this update, and she said yes. In fact, she wanted me to. She's tired of hiding. There's one more thing I need to mention here. After everything that happened, I started thinking about Brooke's past, things she had said over the months, stories she told about old friends, past relationships. There were some details that caught my attention, like that she always had crazy ex-boyfriends, that everyone from her old school hated her because she was self-confident, or that a girl at her last job had made up lies and tried to get her fired. At the time, I didn't give it much importance. I assumed people exaggerated or were jealous of her. Now I'm not so sure. I contacted an ex-friend of hers, a girl she mentioned a lot when talking about university. I barely follow her on Instagram, I hardly even know her, but I texted her and said, "Hi, I dated Brooke. Some things happened and I just wanted to know if you had a good experience with her." She replied immediately. She said they hadn't spoken in years, that Brooke basically completely ignored her after she started dating a guy Brooke liked. She said Brooke always had this need to be the center of everything, that if people didn't align with that, she would start. That hit me hard because that's exactly what's happening now. Brooke can't stand not being the protagonist. I've blocked her number, blocked her from everything. I'm not going to keep explaining myself to people who prefer to believe her version. And honestly, the silence since then has been the best I've felt in weeks. I'm still angry, still disgusted, still processing everything, but I don't regret leaving her. The only thing I regret is ever bringing her home in the first place. I wish I had seen it sooner. Update 3. Last time I posted, I had already broken up with Brooke after all the drama with my family, her non-apology, and because she was basically talking behind my back with our mutual friends. I was trying to close that whole chapter. I just wanted to move on and let it die, but apparently she wasn't done. My sister Bet called me around midnight a few days ago. I almost didn't answer because I thought she had misdialed. She never calls me that late, but I answered and she was crying inconsolably. It took her about a minute to be able to say a sentence. I thought something had happened at her residence, like someone had tried to break in or something, and then she told me someone had left her a note. They slid it under her door. I asked her what it said. She read it to me and her voice was so broken that she had to stop several times. It wasn't directly threatening, but it was creepy. It said things like, "You ruined something that had nothing to do with you, but I guess that's who you are, always playing the victim to make people feel sorry for you." And then something like, "Do you really think you're perfect? Think about it. You're not as innocent as you appear." It had no name, but I already knew who it was before I even asked. Bet didn't want to say it either, but we both knew it was Brooke. Bet told me she threw it in the trash. She told me she didn't want it in her room. I asked her to send me a photo of the note to compare it with something Brooke had written. I still had a message stuck on the microwave. It was one of those cheesy post-it notes like, "Hope your day goes by fast. that she used to leave me before going to work. It was the same handwriting, so that's completely confirmed. The next morning, I got in my car and went straight to her apartment. I didn't even know what I was going to say, but I wanted her to know I wasn't going to let that slide. When she opened the door, she seemed happy I was there, as if I was actually there to ask her to get back together. She had her makeup half done and music playing. I asked her if she had left a note at my sister's residence. She said, "What are you talking about?" and tried to evade the topic. I told her not to play dumb, that I knew what she had done, that I had proof. She was silent for a second, and then gestured. She said something like, "I just wanted to get your attention because you closed yourself off to what your family said, and that was it." My response was, "You are incredibly crazy to drive to my sister's residence and leave her a note just to get my attention. You are a pretty sick woman." I also informed her to stay away from my sister unless she wanted trouble. We are already over, and she has no right to keep dragging my sister into this just because she doesn't understand that we're finished. I told her that if she approached Bet again, either physically or with her passive-aggressive games, I would go straight to the police. She started saying that I was overreacting and that the police wouldn't do anything because she's innocent and my family is just a bunch of drama queens. That's when I left. I didn't say anything else. I just left. But I was seething with rage all the way home. I still haven't told my parents about the note. Bet said it's okay if they find out, but she doesn't want this to become a drama again. She just wants to get back to normal, and honestly, I don't blame her. But for now, I'm keeping all possible information, and I've asked Bet to at least save that note. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but I don't trust Brooke not to try something else, especially now that she's been exposed. I'm not afraid of her, but I'm exhausted. I didn't think this would get so dark. I thought it would just be an ugly breakup. It turns out the person I thought I was in love with might have been someone completely different from the character she sold me. And honestly, I think she needs to be seen as a victim, because if she isn't, she has to face what she has really done, and I don't think she's ready for that. Anyway, I just needed to vent. For those wondering, Bet is safe. She's affected, but she's okay. She's been talking about this with her therapist, and I'm also much more on top of everything now. Update 4. It's been a while since I posted. I thought I was done with all of this. After the last update, I was emotionally exhausted. I didn't want to think about her anymore. I thought that if I simply moved on, kept my distance, and didn't respond to anything, everything would disappear. I tried total no contact, focusing on helping Bet and pretending Brooke no longer existed, but people like her get worse when you ignore them. Bet is getting back into her university routine and trying to return to normal. And then 2 weeks ago, something new happened, something that made me realize that simply walking away wasn't going to be enough, and that authorities needed to be involved. Bet was called aside by one of her professors. He told her an anonymous concern had been raised against her. It stated that she was emotionally unstable, had threatened self-harm, and might be using that to manipulate others. The university has an obligation to take such matters seriously, but they also know how to identify what's truly happening. The professor told her they wouldn't take any action but had to notify the family contact because it involved psychological issues. That contact was me. Bet called me immediately. She was in a panic again, not just scared but furious because she knew from the first moment who it had been. I didn't even have to ask her, so I made a decision. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. Brooke works in public relations. She loves to talk about her personal brand. She once told me that she curates her life like a resume, only showing what helps her advance. Her entire personality is polished, professional, calculated. When we were together, I didn't think twice about it. I believed it was simply self-confidence. Now I realize it was control. I knew she had a close relationship with her boss. She always spoke of her as a mentor, someone who believed in her when no one else did. She bragged about the trust her boss had in her, that she was probably going to get a promotion before the end of the year. I just wrote a simple objective message. I attached screenshots, the voice notes she sent to my friends, the photo of the handwritten note she slid under Bet's door, and I told her what she said to Bet's professor. A week later, I learned about the consequences for Brooke. She had been asked to take personal leave from work, but it's as good as being fired. Although that was only one part of everything I did regarding Brooke, I told her that if she didn't leave us alone, especially my sister, I was going to go to the police and file a harassment complaint. And that's what I've done. Perhaps that also had an effect on her job because the police are officially filing charges against her and the situation is as serious as it can be. Honestly, I don't expect much. It's just a message and little else. But they are going to investigate the call to the university and gather more evidence of harassment. Most likely she'll receive a fine or something like that. I don't expect them to send her to prison for it. But if that helps her realize that we don't want her in our lives anymore, it's welcome. There are people who don't understand when you tell them you don't want to know anything more about them, who you block, and they still find ways to reach you, who only understand when there's something formal against them. I hope she's one of those people, and not one of those who still won't understand even with all this. Edit. We don't qualify for a restraining order yet. Just clarifying because it's been asked a lot. Update C. We already know the type of person Brooke is, one of those who can only be stopped by involving the police. Because after the complaint and all the subsequent investigation, she hasn't done anything else. No contact, no more harassment, nothing. And now that she has faced some consequences like paying a fine for harassment, things have also been quiet. I know that won't make her change because she hasn't changed this whole time. She's still a high school bully, and it's likely she'll start bullying other people, another boyfriend, another colleague, another whatever. I feel bad saying it, but I'm glad it's no longer us, even if the curse, if her parents or someone doesn't truly stop her, falls on someone else. But it feels good to have such a huge weight lifted off my shoulders as Brooke was. At least for me, this only cost me 8 months of my life plus this time and not an entire lifetime of marriage. It would have been even better to find out all of this as soon as I started dating her. But it is what it is.